The air in Bad Nauheim, Germany was crisp, hinting at the coming winter, but inside the small apartment, a different kind of chill settled over Priscilla Beaulieu. It was August 1962, and the day she had dreaded for months was finally here. Elvis was leaving the army. His 2-year stint, it was all coming to an end. He was going back to America, to his music, his movies, his incredible life. And she was staying behind. Her heart ached with a dull, constant throb. She tried to smile, tried to be brave, as she watched him pack the last of his things. His uniform, neatly folded, lay on the bed, a symbol of the time they had spent together, a time that felt like a beautiful, fragile dream. Turned from his suitcase, his blue eyes, usually so full of sparkle, now held a hint of sadness that mirrored her own. "Scylla," he said, his voice a low rumble that always sent a shiver down her spine. He reached for her, pulling her into his strong embrace. She buried her face in his shoulder, inhaling the familiar scent of him cologne, a hint of sweat, and something uniquely. "Elvis, don't you worry, little one. This isn't goodbye, not really." She pulled back, looking up at him, tears welling in her eyes. "But it feels like it, Elvis. You're going so far away." Cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs gently stroking her cheeks. "I know, baby. I know, but listen to me. I want you to come to Graceland." The words hung in the air, shimmering like a mirage. Graceland, the name was legendary. It wasn't just a house. It was a kingdom, a myth. She had seen pictures, heard stories. It was his sanctuary, his castle. The thought of stepping foot inside, let alone living there, felt utterly impossible. "A fantasy," she whispered, her voice barely audible. You mean it?" He nodded, a warm smile spreading across his face, lighting up his eyes. "Every word. I want you there with me." "It won't be easy, Scylla. My daddy, the guys, they'll be there. And the fans, of course. But it's home and I want you to be part of it." A wave of conflicting emotions washed over her. Joy so intense it made her dizzy, warred with a terrifying surge of fear. How could a simple girl from a military family, still only 16, possibly fit into that world? Her parents, especially her stepfather, Captain Beaulieu, were strict, protective. This wasn't just a visit. This was a move across an ocean into the whirlwind life of the biggest star on the planet. "My parents," she began, the practical concerns immediately crashing down on her excitement. "They'll never agree." Elvis chuckled, a low, confident sound. "We'll work on them. I'll talk to them. It might take some convincing, but I have a way with parents, Scylla. You know that." He gave her a playful wink. He had, after all, charmed her parents into letting her spend time with him in Germany, a feat in itself. For the next few weeks after Elvis had flown back to America, the apartment in Bad Nauheim became a battlefield of emotions. Priscilla felt like she was caught between two worlds. The quiet, disciplined life she had always known, and the dazzling, unpredictable future Elvis offered. Her mother, Anne, was hesitant, but understood the depth of the connection between her daughter and Elvis. Her stepfather, however, was vehemently opposed. "It's preposterous, Priscilla," Captain Beaulieu boomed, his face flushed. "You're a child. To move halfway across the world to live in the home of a rock and roll singer? Absolutely not." "But Daddy," he promised, Priscilla pleaded, her voice cracking. "He cares about me, and I love him." The arguments were endless, fueled by fear on one side and a desperate, unwavering hope on the other. Elvis, true to his word, called regularly, not just to her, but to her parents, speaking with a calm assurance that slowly, subtly began to chip away at her stepfather's resolve. Promised to take care of her, to ensure she finished school in Memphis, to treat her with respect. He even suggested that her parents visit Graceland themselves, to see the environment she would be living in. Finally, after weeks of agonizing discussions, a compromise was reached. Priscilla would be allowed to go to Graceland, but under strict conditions. Her parents would visit frequently and she would attend an all-girls Catholic school. In Memphis, Immaculate Conception. It wasn't an easy victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The day she received the official green light, A sensation akin to an electric current shot through her. It was real. She was actually going. The excitement was overwhelming, a vibrant hum beneath her skin. She started packing, meticulously folding her clothes, choosing outfits she thought might be suitable for the dazzling world of Memphis. Every item felt infused with hope and a nervous anticipation. The journey itself was a blur of frantic energy and profound uncertainty. Leaving Germany, saying goodbye to her friends, her familiar school, felt like stepping into a void. The flight was long, stretching out over hours, crossing time zones, carrying her further and further from everything she knew. She clutched a small, worn photo of Elvis, his confident smile, a silent reassurance. What would Graceland be like? Would it be as grand as the picture suggested? Would she feel like an outsider? Would she be able to fit in truly, be part of Elvis's world? These questions swirled in her mind, a dizzying kaleidoscope of possibilities. As the plane began its descent, the landscape below transformed from the ordered fields of Europe to the sprawling, tree-lined suburbs of America. Memphis, the very name tasted exotic on her tongue. Her heart began to pound a furious rhythm against her ribs. This was it, the start of an adventure she could never have imagined. The moment she had dreamed of, feared, and longed for was finally about to begin. She was on her way to Graceland. She was on her way to Elvis, and nothing would ever be the same. The plane touched down with a gentle bump, and a collective sigh seemed to ripple through the cabin. For Priscilla, it was less a sigh and more a gasp. The air felt different here, warmer, heavier, filled with a scent she couldn't quite place, but instantly associated with America. As she disembarked, stepping onto the jet bridge, the air conditioner's hum was a cool balm against her suddenly clammy skin. Her stomach fluttered with a mixture of nerves and excitement, so potent it made her feel lightheaded. This was it. No turning back now. She walked through the airport, a solitary figure, amidst the bustling crowd, clutching her small carry-on bag. Her eyes scanned every face, a part of her expecting to see Elvis himself, even though she knew that was highly unlikely, given his celebrity status. Instead, she spotted him almost immediately, a tall, kind-faced man with a reassuring smile. "Priscilla?" he asked, his voice soft, with a distinct southern drawl that was both unfamiliar and welcoming. It was Charlie Hodge, one of Elvis's closest friends, and an integral part of his inner circle, the Memphis Mafia. Charlie had been with Elvis in Germany, so he was a familiar, comforting face in this vast new landscape. "Charlie," she exclaimed, relief washing over her. She hurried towards him, a genuine smile finally breaking through her nervous facade. "Welcome to Memphis, darling," he said, taking her small suitcase. "Elvis couldn't be here himself, you know how it is. But he sent me, and he's just chomping at the bit for you to get to Graceland." A flush spread across Priscilla's cheeks. Knowing Elvis was eagerly awaiting her made her heart swell. Charlie led her through the airport, past curious glances and whispers, towards a waiting car. It was a sleek black limousine, long and imposing, a silent testament to the world she was about to enter. Stepping inside, the plush leather seats enveloped her, and the tinted windows offered a discreet shield from the outside world. The drive through Memphis was a revelation. Everything felt bigger, brighter, more spread out than the compact European towns she was used to. Trees were different, the houses seemed to stretch on forever, and the cars were immense. Music drifted from open windows, the distinct vibrant sound of rock and roll and rhythm and blues that seemed to pulse through the very air of the city. This was the South, the birthplace of the music that had made Elvis a legend. Charlie kept up a light conversation, telling her anecdotes about Elvis, sharing funny stories that made her laugh, easing some of the tension that had tightened her shoulders. He spoke of Graceland with such warmth, describing it as a truly unique place, a home full of life and laughter, where Elvis was just surrounded by his family and friends. This helped to paint a picture in her mind, a more comforting one than the grand, intimidating mansion she had imagined. As they drove, the anticipation built steadily, a crescendo of excitement. She kept trying to picture Graceland, the actual house, beyond the photographs. Would it truly feel like a home? Or would it be more like a museum, a shrine to Elvis Presley? She desperately hoped for the former. Almost there, Charlie announced, his voice gentle, sensing her growing nerves. He turned onto a street lined with mature trees, their branches forming a leafy canopy. The houses here were large, stately, set back from the road. This was Whitehaven, the quiet residential neighborhood where Graceland resided. Priscilla leaned forward, her face pressed close to the window, her breath catching in her throat. Every turn felt significant. Every house they passed a prelude to the main event. She watched as Charlie pointed out a familiar landmark, a church spire, a gas station, the small details that grounded this fantastical journey in reality. Then up ahead she saw it, not the house itself, yet, but the first undeniable sign. Even from a distance, she could make out the cluster of people gathered on the sidewalk. There were fans, she realized, dozens of them, maybe even hundreds, all waiting, just hoping for a glimpse, a wave, a fresh wave of nervousness washed over her. This was the reality of Elvis's life, this constant reality of his unyielding public gaze. How could she ever navigate this? How could she ever navigate this? "Don't you worry about them," he said, his voice reassuring. "They're mostly good folks. They just love Elvis. You'll get used to it." He slowed the car, approaching a curve in the road, and then there it was. Looming into view, magnificent and iconic, stood the gates of Graceland. Wrought iron, intricately designed, with musical notes, and two bold figures of Elvis himself, one playing a guitar, the other singing into a microphone. They were grand, imposing, and undeniably beautiful. The gates weren't just an entrance, they were a boundary, separating one world from another. Beyond them lay not just a house, but a legend. Her heart pounded. A drum solo in her chest. This was it. The moment she would finally cross the threshold into Elvis's private kingdom, the car slowed further, stopping just short of the gates. Crowd stirred, murmuring with excitement, cameras flashing. A couple of men from Elvis's security team emerged from a small booth nearby, their faces serious, but their movements efficient. One of them nodded to Charlie, then activated the gate. And with a soft whirring sound, the heavy iron gates began to swing inwards, revealing a long, winding driveway. She could see the mansion in the distance, partially obscured by the lush, mature trees that dotted the expansive front lawn. It was larger than she had imagined, grander, but also seemed to possess a quiet dignity. The limousine glided through the opening gates, leaving the clamor of the crowd behind. The sound of their cheers and camera clicks faded into a muffled hum as they entered the serene, private world of Graceland. The air here felt different, too. Somehow calmer, more peaceful. As the car began its slow ascent up the driveway, Priscilla's gaze was fixed on the house. Her mind raced, picturing Elvis, waiting for her inside. What would he say? How would she feel? All the months of waiting, the arguments, the transatlantic flight, it all led to this very second. She was here at Graceland with Elvis. A new chapter, a new life was about to begin. The sheer magnitude of the moment settled over her, a warm, thrilling embrace. The limousine purred along the winding driveway, a path paved with white gravel that crunched softly under the tires. Priscilla felt as though she were moving through a dream, the outside world fading away, replaced by the hushed grandeur of Graceland. The iconic gates now behind them seemed to hum with the energy of 1,000 fan photographs, yet within the grounds a profound stillness reigned. Her gaze was fixed on the mansion, which grew larger and more defined with every foot of the drive. It was not a sprawling, modern edifice, but a stately columned antebellum mansion painted a creamy white. 4 grand columns rose from the front porch, supporting a classic pediment, giving it an air of timeless elegance. A wide, sweeping staircase, made of white stone, led up to the imposing front door, which was painted a dark, rich green. The lawn on either side of the driveway was meticulously manicured, a vibrant emerald green that looked impossibly soft. Towering oak trees, ancient and wise, dotted the landscape, casting long, dancing shadows in the late afternoon sun. Their branches, heavy with leaves, created a natural canopy, adding to the feeling of secluded serenity. There were blooming bushes, their flowers, a riot of color, and carefully tended flower beds lining the walkway, bursting with life. "It's even more beautiful than the pictures," Priscilla whispered, a sense of awe washing over her. The photographs she'd seen were static, two-dimensional. This was alive, breathing, majestic. Charlie, sensing her wonder, smiled. "She's a grand old lady, that's for sure, and Elvis loves her more than anything. Says it's the only place he can truly relax, truly be himself." That thought warmed Priscilla's heart. To be allowed into that sacred space, into the place where Elvis felt most at ease, was a privilege she deeply cherished. She wondered if she would feel at ease here, too. As the car drew closer, she could see more details. The elegant, slightly curved iron railings that lined the front porch, the symmetrical windows, their panes sparkling in the sunlight. A small, subtle sign of life. A tricycle left casually near the side of the house, perhaps by one of Elvis's younger cousins. It was these little touches that began to transform the grand monument into a real home. The limousine pulled to a gentle stop directly in front of the sweeping staircase. Before Charlie could even open her door, the front door of the mansion swung open, and there he was, Elvis. He stood silhouetted against the light of the foyer, a vision in an impeccably tailored suit. She couldn't quite tell the color from the distance, but it looked dark, maybe black or navy. His hair was perfectly coiffed, his eyes hidden behind a pair of dark sunglasses, but even from afar she could feel the powerful aura that emanated from him. He was taller, broader, even more magnificent than she remembered. A year and a half apart had only intensified his presence. A gasp escaped her lips. All the nerves, all the anticipation, all the long journey coalesced into one overwhelming feeling of pure, unadulterated joy. He was real. He was here, and he was waiting for her. He took a step forward, a wide, breathtaking smile spreading across his face as he pushed his sunglasses up onto his head, revealing those famous, piercing blue eyes. They sparkled with a familiar warmth, a genuine happiness that instantly put her at ease. "Scylla," he called out, his voice rich and deep, carrying across the quiet grounds. He descended the steps, moving with that iconic fluid grace that was uniquely his. He was almost running, his eagerness unmistakable. Priscilla fumbled with the car door handle, her hands trembling slightly. Charlie had already opened it for her, and she practically tumbled out, her legs feeling a little wobbly. She met him halfway up the steps, and in a single fluid motion he swept her into his arms, lifting her off her feet in a crushing embrace. She wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his shoulder, inhaling his familiar scent. Cologne, cigarettes, and something else, something distinctly Elvis, that was like coming home. "Oh, Elvis," she murmured, tears welling in her eyes, blurring the sight of the magnificent house over his shoulder. "You're here? I'm here." He held her tightly, swaying gently. "Baby." His voice was thick with emotion, a triumphant note beneath the tenderness. He set her down but kept his arms around her, holding her at arm's length to look at her. His eyes scanned her face as if memorizing every detail. "You made it. You're really here at Graceland." He took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, a gesture that spoke volumes. "Come on," he said, his voice full of excitement. "Let me show you around. Welcome home, Scylla." With her hand firmly clasped in his, Elvis led her up the remaining steps towards the grand front door. She looked back one last time at the magnificent facade, the columns, the sweeping staircase. This was not just a house. It was a sanctuary, a monument, a legend. And now she was about to step inside. The air hummed with unspoken promise. A future unfolding before her very eyes. Her heart was overflowing. Graceland, She was finally here. And Elvis was right by her side, beaming as proud as a king, welcoming his queen to his castle. The front door beckoned a gateway to a world she was about to discover. Room by glorious room. Elvis squeezed her hand, his eyes sparkling with an almost childlike excitement as he pushed open the heavy front door. Priscilla stepped across the threshold, and the world outside with its whispers and camera flashes instantly faded away. The first thing that struck her was the sheer scale of the foyer. It wasn't just big, it was enormous, with high ceilings that seemed to stretch endlessly upwards. The floor was a mosaic of black and white marble tiles polished to a mirror, like shine reflecting the light from an ornate crystal chandelier that hung like a sparkling jewel from the center of the ceiling. The air was cool and quiet, carrying a faint scent of old wood and something subtly floral. "Well, what do you think, Scylla?" Elvis asked, his voice a low rumble beside her, his hand still firmly clasped in hers. He looked at her, his eyes shining, eager for her reaction. Priscilla turned slowly, taking it all in. To her left a grand sweeping staircase, covered in deep red carpet, curved upwards, beckoning her to explore the mysteries of the second floor. The banister was carved from dark rich wood gleaming under the light. "It's incredible, Elvis," she managed to say, her voice barely a whisper, filled with genuine. "It's so grand," he chuckled, a sound of pure contentment. "Just wait till you see the rest. Come on." He pulled her gently forward, deeper into the house. To their immediate right, a wide, arched entryway led into the living room. Priscilla stepped in, and her eyes widened even further. This room was just as vast as the foyer, bathed in natural light, filtering through tall, curtained windows that overlooked the front lawn. The decor was luxurious, yet somehow still felt Dominating the room was a magnificent long white sofa, curving gracefully around the far wall. It looked incredibly soft and comfortable, draped with elegant throws. Across from it, two plush white armchairs completed the seating arrangement, all centered around a large dark coffee table. "This is where we hang out, watch TV sometimes," Elvis explained, gesturing around the room. He led her towards a large ornate fireplace, its mantelpiece adorned with various decorative items and framed photographs. Priscilla noticed a silver gramophone, its horn gleaming, sitting on a side table. Her gaze then fell upon the magnificent piano, tucked into a corner of the room. It was a beautiful, dark, grand piano, its polished surface reflecting the room's grandeur. "Do you play, Elvis?" she asked, already knowing the answer but wanting to hear him say it. He grinned. "A little, mostly gospel. Sometimes I just bang on it and make up a tune." He walked over to it, running a hand along the keys, a soft, almost reverent touch. "This is where my mama used to love to sit. Listen to me play." A flicker of tenderness crossed his face as he mentioned his mother Gladys. Priscilla knew how much he missed her, how central she had been to his life. Graceland had been bought for Gladys, a testament to his success and a comfort to her. She noticed the details around the room, antique lamps with fringed shades, heavy drapes in a rich, complementary color, and several large framed paintings adorning the walls. Everything spoke of opulence, but also of comfort. It wasn't stiff or untouchable. It felt lived in a place where people genuinely relaxed. "It's just so elegant," Priscilla murmured, still trying to absorb it all. She imagined the famous people who must have sat on that very sofa, the conversations that had taken place in this very room. Elvis nodded. "That's what my mama wanted. Something nice, something beautiful. We worked hard to make it a home." He walked over to one of the large windows, drawing back the heavy curtain slightly to let in more light. "You can see the whole front yard from here. The gates, everything." He gestured towards the main entrance. "We come in here for Christmas, for special occasions. It's got a good feeling, don't it?" Priscilla nodded, a profound sense of warmth spreading through her. Despite its grandeur, there was an unmistakable feeling of home in the air. It wasn't cold or impersonal. It was a place where Elvis's family gathered, where laughter echoed, where stories were shared. She could almost feel the presence of his mother, a gentle spirit watching over the house. He led her back towards the foyer, pausing at the foot of the grand staircase. "And this," he said, indicating the sweeping stairs, "leads up to the private part of the house, our bedrooms. But we'll get to that later." He gave her a mischievous grin. "First, let's see where we eat, huh? You must be starving after that long trip." Her stomach rumbled in agreement, a small, undignified sound that made Elvis laugh. His hand still holding hers was a warm, comforting presence. She felt a profound sense of relief. Graceland wasn't just a magnificent building, it was Elvis's home, and he was opening it up to her, sharing it with her, making her feel not like a guest, but like someone truly welcome. The first hurdle was cleared. She was here, and it felt right. Elvis led her from the grand living room, across the marble-tiled foyer, and into another spacious room on the opposite side. "And this here," he announced with a flourish, "is the dining room where all the magic happens at mealtime." The dining room, while still elegant, felt much more intimate and functional than the formal living room. A long, polished mahogany table dominated the center, surrounded by a set of sturdy, high-backed chairs, upholstered in a deep, rich fabric. The table was large enough to seat at least a dozen people, comfortably speaking to the frequent family gatherings that must have taken place here. The walls were covered in a vibrant, almost regal wallpaper, a pattern of deep reds and golds that caught the light. A large, ornate mirror hung on one wall, reflecting the entire room and making it feel even more expansive. There was a beautiful sideboard cabinet along another wall, its surface polished to a gleam, probably holding china or silver. "We have most of our meals here," Elvis explained, guiding her towards the head of the table. "My daddy always sits at one end and I'm usually at the other. It gets pretty lively sometimes, especially with all the cousins around." Chuckled as if recalling a particularly boisterous meal. Priscilla could easily imagine it. The sound of clinking silverware, the murmur of conversation, the laughter, the rich aroma of southern cooking. It was a picture of warmth and family, a stark contrast to the quiet formality of her own family's dinner table. She could almost taste the fried chicken and mashed potatoes he'd often talked about. "It's beautiful, Elvis," she said, running a hand lightly over the back of one of the chairs. "It feels so full of life." "That's because it is," he confirmed, his eyes warm. "This house is always full of people. Family, friends, the boys, never a dull moment." From the dining room, Elvis led her through a connecting doorway, and suddenly the atmosphere shifted. The grandeur softened, replaced by a more practical, bustling energy. They were in the kitchen. It wasn't a sleek, modern kitchen, but a large, functional one, with a comfortable, lived-in feel. Cabinets were a warm wood, and the counters were a durable laminate. A large, well-used stove and oven were prominent, clearly the heart of many culinary operations. The air here was subtly different, too, carrying faint, lingering scents of spices and cooking from earlier in the day. "And this, Scylla, is where our wonderful cooks Aunt Nash and Mary whip up all the good stuff," Elvis announced proudly, gesturing around the room. "Anything you want, they can make it, and they make the best peanut butter and banana sandwiches in the world." He winked at her, a shared secret between them. Priscilla smiled. This was the Elvis she knew and loved, playful, appreciative of good food. Kitchen, with its practical design and clear purpose, was a grounding force in the opulent mansion. It showed her that despite the fame and fortune, there was still a fundamental normalcy to life at Graceland. She noticed a large, vintage refrigerator, probably stocked to the brim, and a small round breakfast table nestled in a corner, perfect for a quick snack or a casual morning coffee. There were everyday items on the counter, a coffee maker, a toaster, a fruit bowl. It felt genuinely like a family kitchen. "You really do eat here often then?" she asked, observing a stack of newspapers on the breakfast table. "Every day," Elvis confirmed. "Breakfast, lunch, dinner, sometimes late-night snacks too. The kitchen is always open here. Nobody ever goes hungry at Graceland. He opened a large pantry door, revealing shelves stacked high with canned goods, cereal boxes, and various snacks. "See, everything a growing boy could ever need," he joked, flexing his bicep. He then pointed to a large open pass-through window that looked into another, more casual den area. "That's the den we sometimes eat in there too, if it's just a few of us. Or when we're watching TV." Priscilla felt a quiet comfort settle over her. This wasn't just a showpiece. It was a home that functioned, that had a rhythm, that provided for its inhabitants. It wasn't just about the grand spaces. It was about the daily routines, the shared meals, the simple acts of living. This glimpse into the heart of the home, the kitchen and dining room, reassured her that beneath the celebrity there was a foundation of genuine domesticity. "It's wonderful, Elvis," she said truthfully, looking around the bustling kitchen. She could almost hear the clatter of pots and pans, the friendly chatter of the cooks. It felt warm, welcoming, and reassuringly normal, despite being in the most famous house in America. This was the beating heart of Graceland, a place where people gathered, nourished themselves, and created memories. She could already imagine herself sitting at that dining table, part of the lively family meals, a true resident of Graceland. "All right, Scylla," Elvis said, his voice dropping slightly. "Let's go see the private side of the house. Up we go." He led her back to the foyer, towards the magnificent curving staircase. As they ascended the steps, the deep red carpet cushioned their footsteps, making the climb feel hushed and reverent. Priscilla ran her hand along the dark polished banister, feeling the smooth, cool wood beneath her fingertips. The grand chandelier in the foyer shimmered below, casting a soft glow upwards. At the top of the stairs, a spacious landing unfolded with more hallways leading off to different parts of the second floor. This area felt distinctly different from the downstairs, quieter, more intimate. The air was still and warm, carrying a faint, subtle scent that was uniquely Elvis's. A blend of his cologne and something else indefinable, yet comforting. Elvis led her straight down a short hallway, his hand gently guiding her arm. He stopped at a doorway and pushed it open. "And this is my bedroom," he announced, a touch of pride in his voice. Priscilla stepped inside, and her breath hitched. The room was large, but it didn't feel overwhelming. Instead, it exuded a deep sense of personal comfort and masculine elegance. The walls were a soft, calming blue, and the carpets were thick and plush, a rich dark color that made the room feel grounded. The centerpiece was, of course, the bed. It was massive, a king-sized creation with a tall padded headboard in a dark, luxurious fabric. Covers were pulled back, revealing crisp white sheets and a collection of plump pillows. It looked incredibly inviting, a haven of rest. "It's so serene," she murmured, walking further into the room. Elvis walked over to the large windows, which were draped with heavy matching blue curtains, and pulled them back slightly. "It gets the morning sun. I like that. Wakes me up nice." He smiled, a relaxed, contented expression on his face. She noticed the furniture, a sturdy dresser, a nightstand with a lamp and a stack of books, a comfortable armchair in a corner, draped with a throw blanket. On the dresser, there were a few personal items, a silver-framed photograph of his parents, a small collection of cufflink boxes, a bottle of his signature cologne. These small, intimate details made the room feel truly his. It wasn't just a space. It was a sanctuary. "This is where I come to relax, to think," he said, sitting down on the edge of the bed, patting the spot next to him. "Sometimes I just sit here and listen to music or read. It's quiet up here." Priscilla sat beside him, the mattress sinking slightly beneath her weight. The bed was as comfortable as it looked. She imagined him here unwinding after a long day of recording or performing away from the demands of his public life. This was the private Elvis, the man she had come to know and love in Germany. He gestured to a large television set, positioned at the foot of the bed. "And, of course, gotta have my TV. Sometimes the boys come up and we watch movies late into the night." She could picture it, Elvis surrounded by his closest friends, laughing, talking, just being men. It was a comforting thought, a glimpse into the genuine camaraderie that defined his inner circle. Next, Elvis pointed to another door within the bedroom. "And through here is the bathroom. It's got everything." He led her into an ensuite bathroom that was surprisingly large and luxurious. Tiles were a soft, muted color, and there was a double vanity with ample counter space. A large mirror hung above it, reflecting the light. What caught her eye most was the oversized bathtub, clearly designed for comfort, and a separate, spacious shower stall. "This is where I get ready for the day," he said, gesturing to the counter. There were various bottles of men's toiletries, shaving cream, and a collection of different hair products. The faint scent of his cologne was stronger in here. Priscilla felt a flush of intimacy being in his most personal space. It was a place where he was truly vulnerable, truly himself. Before the world put demands on him, it was a privilege to be allowed here. She imagined him standing at the sink, running his hands through his hair, getting ready for a show or just for a day at Graceland. "It's very private," she observed, feeling a deeper connection to him now that she was seeing the hidden corners of his life. He nodded, a serious look on his face. "That's what it's for. Up here, it's just for us, for family, for the people I trust." He looked at her, his gaze intense and meaningful. "And that includes you, Scylla, more than anyone." His words settled over, warm and real. Being in his bedroom, seeing his personal belongings, sharing this intimate space, cemented the feeling that she was truly welcome here, truly a part of his life. Graceland wasn't just a place of fame and grandeur, it was a home, and in its most private corners, it was becoming her home too. After showing her his bedroom and bathroom, Elvis led Priscilla further down the upstairs hallway. "Come on, there's a couple more rooms up here you'll want to see," he said, his enthusiasm still boundless. He opened a door to a large, comfortable room distinct from his bedroom, but clearly an extension of his private domain. "This is my sitting room, or the TV room upstairs, as some call it," he explained, ushering her in. The room was immediately captivating, designed for ultimate relaxation and entertainment. One entire wall was dominated by a huge television set far larger than any Priscilla had ever seen. On either side of it, two smaller TVs were perfectly aligned, creating the famous 3-TV setup. "I like to watch all the channels at once," Elvis chuckled, seeing her fascinated gaze. "News, movies, sports, whatever's on. Never miss a thing." Comfortable, overstuffed sofas and armchairs, upholstered in deep, plush velvet, were arranged around the televisions, creating a cozy and inviting space. There were side tables laden with various magazines, remote controls, and half-empty glasses, giving the room a delightfully lived-in feel. It was clear that many hours were spent here with Elvis and his friends, unwinding. "It's like a private movie theater," Priscilla exclaimed, impressed by the setup. "That's the idea," he agreed, sinking into one of the sofas, patting the cushion next to him for her to join. "Sometimes we'll just throw on old movies all night long. Dean Martin, Marlon Brando, the classics." On another wall, Priscilla noticed a large, intricate stereo system. Beside it, shelves overflowed with records, a massive collection spanning various genres from gospel and blues to country, and of course, rock and roll. This was the true soundtrack of Elvis's life, laid bare. "And this," he said, gesturing to the record collection, "is my music, everything from Mahalia Jackson to Mario Lanza. You name it, I probably got it. We'll put on some tunes later, whatever you want to hear." Being in this room, surrounded by his personal taste and preferences, deepened Priscilla's understanding of him. This wasn't the public icon. This was the man who loved music, movies, and the simple comfort of being with his friends. The atmosphere was casual, relaxed, and genuinely fun. After a few minutes, Elvis stood up. He led her to another door connected to his bedroom, but also accessible from the hallway. "This is my dressing room." He swung the door open, revealing a large walk-in closet that was more like a small boutique. Racks of clothes, impeccably organized, stretched around the room. There were rows of custom-made suits, dazzling stage outfits, elegant evening wear, casual jacket. Shelves above were piled high with neatly folded sweaters and shirts. A shoe rack displayed dozens of pairs of boots and loafers, all polished to perfection. "Goodness, Elvis," Priscilla breathed, awestruck. "You have so many clothes." He grinned, a playful glint in his eyes. "A man needs his options, Scylla. You never know when you gotta look sharp." He gestured to a full-length mirror, leaning against one wall, surrounded by bright theatrical lights. "This is where I get myself ready for a show, or just for the day. Make sure every hair is in place." On a vanity table, she saw an array of combs, brushes, and different hair products, along with a collection of colognes. The scent of his particular blend of fragrances was strongest in this room, a rich masculine aroma. She imagined him standing there meticulously styling his famous pompadour, preparing to face the world. There were also a few personal items on the vanity: a small leather-bound book, a silver-backed brush set, and a framed photo of him with his band. Laughing, these small touches humanized the grand display of his wardrobe, reminding her that these were just clothes worn by a real man. "It's amazing, Elvis," she said, genuinely impressed. "You really do live like a king," he chuckled softly. "Well, I try to, but it's more about comfort, Scylla, about having everything you need right here in your own home, away from all the fuss." He looked around the room, a satisfied expression on his face. "This is my space, where I can just be Elvis." And in that moment, standing in his most personal space, surrounded by the objects of his daily life, Priscilla felt an even deeper connection to him. She wasn't just seeing a house, she was seeing the man who lived in it, the details that defined his private world. And the most comforting thought of all was that he was sharing it all with her, inviting her into the most intimate corners of his life. She was no longer just a visitor, she was becoming a part of the fabric of Graceland. After exploring the upstairs private quarters, Elvis led Priscilla back down the grand staircase, their footsteps hushed on the thick red carpet. The elegance of the foyer greeted them once more, but this time Elvis veered off to the other side of the house towards a more casual wing. "All right, Scylla. Now for the real fun part downstairs," he announced with a playful grin, pushing open a door to the left of the main entrance. "This is the TV room. This is where most of the action happens." Priscilla stepped in, and her eyes immediately went to the famous triple-screen television setup. 3 large TV sets were embedded into a custom-built cabinet, positioned perfectly for viewing from the plush, U-shaped sofa that dominated the room. The sofa was a vibrant yellow, a bold splash of color against the darker, more muted tones of the other furniture, and the heavy drapes that covered the windows. "This is it," she exclaimed, recognizing the iconic setup from photographs. "The 3 TVs," Elvis laughed, clearly pleased by her reaction. "That's right. Can't miss a thing with these. We watch all the big games here, movies, anything." He gestured to a small, built-in bar area in one corner, complete with a mini-fridge. Always got cold drinks on hand, too. The room had a relaxed, lived-in feel, much like his upstairs sitting room, but on a grander, more public scale for his friends and family. There were numerous records scattered on a nearby table alongside more remote controls and ashtrays. On a side table, she spotted a vintage jukebox, its colorful lights reflecting on the polished wood. "And this," Elvis said, patting the top of the jukebox, "is my pride and joy. All my favorite tunes. Anything you want to hear, just pick it out." He turned it on, and a soft, warm glow emanated from it, casting playful shadows. Priscilla could easily imagine the scene. Elvis, surrounded by his Memphis mafia, laughing, talking loudly over the sound of the TV's music, playing from the jukebox. It was a hub of energy, a place for pure, unadulterated fun. It was noisy, comfortable, and distinctly male in its vibe. A true man cave, but on a grand scale. "It's wonderful, Elvis," she said, settling into the incredibly soft yellow sofa. It felt like sinking into a cloud. "So much life in here." "That's Graceland," he said simply, his eyes scanning the room with affection. "Always lively, always something going on." From the TV room, Elvis led her into an adjacent space through a wide archway. "And this is the pool room," he announced, a mischievous glint in his eye. The pool room was an explosion of color and texture. The walls and ceiling were draped in pleated gathered fabric. A bold pattern of various shades of blue, green, and yellow created a unique, almost cave-like atmosphere, intimate and playful. In the center of the room stood a regulation-sized billiard table, its green felt surface pristine. "Wow," Priscilla breathed, genuinely surprised by the decor. "The walls are amazing." Elvis grinned. "Yeah, that was my idea. My daddy thought I was crazy at first, but it turned out pretty good." "Huh. Makes it feel like you're wrapped up in a blanket." He walked over to the pool table, picking up a cue stick and expertly chalking the tip. "We spend a lot of time in here, play pool for hours." She could see several cue sticks racked neatly on the wall, along with a scoreboard. The room had a distinct, musky scent of old wood and chalk, mixed with something else, faintly sweet. She imagined the click of billiard balls, the quiet concentration, the friendly competition. It was a space designed purely for leisure and enjoyment. Elvis leaned over the table, taking an imaginary shot, his body fluid and graceful even in casual motion. "You play, Scylla?" he asked, looking up at her with a challenging smile. She shook her head, laughing. "Not really. No, maybe you could teach me." "I could," he said, straightening up, his eyes sparkling. "I'm a good teacher. You'll be beating the boys in no time." The pool room, with its unique design and casual purpose, offered another insight into the multifaceted nature of Graceland. It wasn't all formal elegance and grand gestures. It was also a place for relaxation, for hobbies, for genuine camaraderie and fun. It showed her the less polished, more personal side of Elvis's home life, a side that was full of joy and laughter. As they stood there, surrounded by the vibrant colors and the promise of playful competition, Priscilla felt more and more at ease. This wasn't just a house of a star, it was a living, breathing home. It had its grand, formal spaces, but also its comfortable, casual ones, where life happened, where friendships were forged, and where Elvis could truly unwind and be himself. The tour was revealing layer after layer of the home, each one more fascinating than the last. "All right, Scylla," Elvis said, a new spark of excitement in his eyes. "Let's step outside. Graceland isn't just a house, you know. The grounds are just as important." He led her through a side door from the kitchen area, and they emerged into the warm late afternoon sun. The air was soft and humid, carrying the scent of cut grass and blooming flowers. The world outside was a vibrant tapestry of green and light. They stood on a wide paved patio area which led to the vast expanse of the backyard. The first thing Priscilla noticed was the swimming pool. It was a large, inviting, kidney-shaped pool, its clear blue water shimmering enticingly under the sun. Surrounding it were comfortable-looking lounge chairs and umbrellas, promising lazy afternoons and refreshing dips. "This is where we spend a lot of time in the summer," Elvis explained, gesturing to the pool. "Especially on hot days. It gets pretty lively out here. Sometimes we play football on the lawn, too." The lawn itself stretched far into the distance, a sprawling carpet of perfectly manicured grass, dotted with mature trees that provided ample shade. It felt like a private park, a perfect sanctuary from the outside world. She could almost hear the splashes and laughter. Envision him running across the grass full of energy. Beyond the pool area, she could see a stable. "Those are the horses," Elvis said, pointing. "I got a few. You can ride anytime you want. We'll go out together soon as you get settled." Priscilla's eyes lit up. She loved horses. The idea of riding with Elvis through the quiet, leafy trails surrounding Graceland was a delightful one, a taste of the peaceful shared moments she hoped to have. As they walked across the grass, Elvis pointed out different areas. "Over there," he indicated a separate building discreetly tucked away. "That's where my daddy has his office. He handles a lot of the business stuff from there, keeps everything running smoothly." He led her towards the modest, yet functional building. It was a simple brick structure, blending potting with the main house, but clearly distinct. As they approached, Priscilla could hear the faint sound of a typewriter, the low murmur of voices. Elvis pushed open the door, and they stepped into a busy, organized space. This was a stark contrast to the luxurious comfort of the main house. It was a proper office, with filing cabinets, desks piled with papers, and telephones ringing softly. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, was at his desk, speaking quietly on the phone. He looked up as they entered, his face breaking into a warm, paternal smile. "Daddy, look who's here," Elvis announced, his voice full of pride as he introduced Priscilla. Vernon stood up, a kind, gentle man with a steady gaze. "Priscilla, it's so good to finally have you here. Welcome to Graceland." He shook her hand warmly, his grip firm and sincere. "I hope you'll be very happy here." "Thank you, Mr. Presley," Priscilla replied, feeling a genuine sense of warmth from him. "It's beautiful," Vernon chuckled. "It's home, and Elvis, he's been counting the days till you got here." Priscilla blushed, feeling a pleasant warmth spread through her. It was reassuring to see Vernon, the grounded, practical anchor of Elvis's life, and to understand that Graceland was not just a home, but a fully operational estate, managed with care and dedication. It provided a sense of stability that she hadn't quite expected. After a brief, pleasant chat with Vernon, Elvis led her back outside. "He's the backbone of everything," Elvis said, referring to his father. "Without him, none of this would happen." They continued their stroll, walking towards the back of the grounds. Elvis pointed out a small, quiet grove of trees, a peaceful, secluded spot. "Sometimes I just come out here to think, to get away from it all," he said, his voice soft, almost reflective. "It's good to have space." Priscilla absorbed the quiet beauty of the surroundings. The sprawling lawns, the majestic trees, the shimmering pool, the horses, and the understated efficiency of Vernon's office, it all painted a comprehensive picture of Graceland. It was not just a house, but a self-contained world, designed for comfort, leisure, and privacy, a place where Elvis could truly escape the relentless demands of his fame. She realized that Graceland was not merely a symbol of his success, but a living, breathing entity full of history, dreams, and the quiet rhythm of daily life. It was a place built with love and sustained by family. As the sun began its descent, casting long golden shadows across the lawn, Priscilla felt a profound sense of peace. She was no longer just a visitor, but a welcomed inhabitant, slowly but surely becoming part of the magic that was Graceland. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the Memphis sky in hues of orange and purple, Elvis and Priscilla found themselves back on the grand front porch of Graceland. They sat side by side on the wide steps, the cool stone, a pleasant contrast to the day's warmth. The air was quiet now, save for the chirping of crickets and the distant murmur of the fans, still gathered at the gates, a constant, gentle hum that had become part of the Graceland soundtrack. Elvis had his arm around her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder, a comforting, possessive gesture. Priscilla leaned her head against him, feeling the solid strength of his presence. She had spent the entire afternoon exploring, and her mind was a whirlwind of impressions, images, and feelings. She had seen the opulent living room, the inviting dining room, the bustling kitchen. She had walked through his private upstairs sanctuary, his serene bedroom, the luxurious bathroom, the cozy TV room, and the incredible dressing room filled with his flamboyant wardrobe. She had marveled at the vibrant colors of the downstairs TV and pool rooms. And finally, she had experienced the vast, beautiful grounds, the shimmering pool, the quiet stables, and the practical efficiency of Vernon's office. Graceland was more than she had ever imagined. It was grand. Yes, undeniably so. But it was also so much more. It wasn't a cold, impersonal monument. It was a vibrant, living home, infused with the personality of the man sitting beside her. "So," Elvis murmured, breaking the comfortable silence, "what's the verdict, Scylla? What do you think of my castle?" Turned his head, looking down at her, his blue eyes soft in the fading light. Priscilla lifted her head, meeting his gaze. A genuine, heartfelt smile spread across her face. It's magnificent, Elvis, truly. I mean, it's bigger than anything I've ever seen, but it's so warm. He chuckled softly, pulling her a little closer. Warm? Huh, that's what I like to hear. It's meant to be warm. It's home. It really feels like a home, she confirmed, her voice filled with sincerity. Not just a showpiece. It feels like people actually live here, laugh here, share meals, have fun. That's exactly right, he said, a note of satisfaction in his voice. That's what my mama wanted. A place where we could all be together. A place where I could come back to, no matter what. Priscilla thought about the quiet moments. She had observed the little details, the family photos, the worn books, the simple breakfast table in the kitchen, the tricycle on the lawn. These were the things that truly brought Graceland to life, transforming it from a mere house into a sanctuary. It wasn't just about the extravagance, it was about the heart. I saw this stable, she said, remembering the horses. You really have horses here? Yup, he confirmed, sounding pleased. And we'll go riding together first thing, soon as you're settled in, show you all the trails. She nodded, a wave of contentment washing over her. It was the promise of a future of shared moments, of building a life within these walls. The initial fear and apprehension she'd felt on the plane had dissipated, replaced by a profound sense of belonging. Thank you, Elvis, she said, her voice barely a whisper thick with emotion, for bringing me here, for letting me see it, for everything. He squeezed her shoulder gently. Don't you thank me, Scylla? This is where you belong. This is where we belong together. He paused, looking out at the darkening lawn, then back at the majestic house behind them. This house has seen a lot, good times and bad, but it's always been a safe place, a place of love. And now you're a part of it. His words resonated deeply within her. She had journeyed across an ocean, leaving behind everything familiar to step into a world that felt both dazzling and daunting. But Elvis, with his unwavering warmth and the welcoming embrace of his home, had made it feel less like an overwhelming transition and more like a gentle homecoming. She looked up at the grand columns of Graceland, its windows now glowing with the soft light from within, making it look even more inviting. She imagined the decades of life that would unfold within its walls, the memories that would be created. And now she would be a part of those memories. A quiet certainty settled over her. This wasn't just a house, it was a haven. It was a place where she could grow, where she could love, where she could finally feel truly settled. It was a testament to Elvis's generosity, his love, and his desire to build a life with her. Priscilla took a deep breath, inhaling the sweet, warm night air of Memphis. The journey had been long, the waiting, agonizing. But standing, or rather, sitting, here beside Elvis, on the steps of Graceland, everything felt perfect.